Hey, welcome to another edition of Cook Like a Bastard. Today we're going to cook a couple Margherita pizzas. One in the oven, another one out on the grill. It's going to be a good time. Betcha, right here on Cook Like a Bastard. Can't have good pizza without good crust now, can you? Good pizza crust is simple to make, and the nice thing about it, you can make it ahead of time if you want. You can freeze it, bring it out the day that you want to make it. Today we're going to make it fresh. We're going to start with our yeast, and we have some water here, which is right now at 115 degrees. And I'm going to pour it in my pan right here. And you wouldn't want it any more than 115 degrees. It's probably the top end, but by the time I get down there, it will be cooled down to exactly 110 degrees, which I want it in. So I'm going to pour my yeast. And stir this in and let it dissolve. That was 2 tablespoons of yeast, by the way. And 2 cups of hot water. But not too hot. Don't want to kill those little bastards. Now, not that the yeast is a bastard. Okay, I've mixed those cats in. I'm going to let them sit for a couple minutes. I'm going to let this proof. We'll be right back. Okay, then after a few minutes, some bubbles are going to form, and you know that the yeast is starting to do its trick. So I'm going to pour my 5 cups of flour in here. This is enough dough for probably for 2 pizzas. And then put my sugar and my salt. Or perhaps that was salt and sugar. Who knows at this time. I'm going to start to mix these up. Once you get this going, you put your olive oil in. And you're going to mix this up. And be careful when you're getting this. I mean, if it appears to be too moist, you can add a little flour, but really that tends to make it not as good. So try to fight the urge of doing either, actually, of adding more water or more flour to it, because these mixtures seem to be about right. Then once you start to get this going, you can bring this out on your countertop and start playing with it. You're going to have to knead this for about 10 minutes, so hope you're in shape. But I recommend before, of course, that you might want to take a sip of wine or whatever, just to say, hey, I'm in this for good. And that's for the good of pizza. You know, you could go out in the world and buy a pizza. I bet you there's a pizza shop right by you. But what fun is that? Their pizza is probably pretty good too. So be consistent with your kneading. Down and out. If you think it's a little workout, you go 1 and 2. And if you get confused, you start over again. You go 1 and 2. And you're going to be doing this for, again, for about 5-10 minutes. So actually, after about 6 minutes, I feel that the dough was really at the consistency that I was looking for. You know, work it a couple times. Put it in a glass bowl here. Cover it up. Try to keep it in a warm place and let it double in size. You know, come back in an hour or so. You'll be surprised. The magic of yeast. And cook like a bastard today. Making pizza is a great process, and it's kind of a long process. You got to make the dough. You got to make the mozzarella. You got to make the sauce. I recommend maybe just a little wine while you're going through this. Kind of a nice little smoking loon Cabernet here. Nice little wine to go with pizza. It's not too overwhelming and not too expensive. So the sauce that we're making today is so good. I'm actually going to make a double batch, which is probably good enough for 4 for 4 different pizzas because it's really good, and it keeps very well. You can freeze it or whatever when you get done. And the ingredients are pretty simple. You know, I got some celery, some onion, some fennel, some basil, some salt, some pepper, some bay leaves, some tomato sauce, tomato paste. And we're going to put this whole thing together. We're going to start out by just chopping up about a half cup of celery. Cut it very finely. You don't want your sauce to be too chunky. Sometimes people freak out a little bit if they see that their pizza sauce is too chunky. So make the celery really fine. The celery is great in the sauce because it adds a nice little sweetness to it, and it just really gives it the texture that you don't even expect it to be coming from it. So you'll end up with about this much celery here, and that's yeah, about a half cup of celery for a double batch. I'm going to cut up some onions, and now the onions, peel them off, and then you're going to want maybe 1 small onion and 1 large onion to give your about a cup of onions here. Cut these up finely too. Again, I don't think you want your sauce being too thick. You don't want it being too thin either, but I think by making your celery and your onions fine enough, it'll be good for even those, maybe some of those little ones who don't like a lot of crunchy stuff in their sauce. So you get the flavor and not the crunch. It's kind of the opposite of me, if you know what I mean. I don't either. Sometimes you just kind of say stuff when you're chopping onions because it avoids the tears that we often see during this lovely chopping process. So we're going to chop up these 2 onions and then start to melt some butter so we can cook them down. Okay, so I've got a nice saucepan here. It's actually a brazier, but I think it's good for the quantity that we're making. So I'm going to take a couple tablespoons of butter in here and maybe about 4 tablespoons of olive oil to really get this going nice. That's exactly 4 tablespoons. Be precise with your olive oil because God knows you wouldn't want too much olive oil. So I'm going to melt this down here and heat this up. Okay, after a couple minutes, your butter and oil are going to be to the right temperature. Make sure not to get it too hot. You don't want to be burning the butter. So just take your cup of onions and dump them in here, and then your celery, and then probably about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic, kind of crushed and then coarsely chopped up. Then you're going to want to cook these down so they become a little translucent before you add the rest of the nummy, and I mean nummy ingredients. And then when these start to soften up a little bit, get a little translucent, you're going to add your tomato. I'm using some strained tomatoes. It's about 2 cups of tomatoes in here, maybe a little bit more. And these again are made in Italy, so you know they have to be good, just like pizza is. And then we also add 8 ounces or so, 12 ounces of tomato paste. Made in America, like pizza is. See if you can separate the taste between the Italian tomatoes and the American tomato paste. That's kind of the struggle I'm going to put you through, the challenge we're going to have here in the Cook Like a Bastard studios. We're making this meal happen. Now we've made this sauce here in this kitchen so many times. Every time we make pizza, we make this sauce because we know just how good it is. Truly the best pizza sauce I have ever had. The nice thing about this sauce, you can let it sit for a long time and simmer, or you can make it ready right away. We're going to let it simmer for about an hour after we put all of our ingredients in, which is some oregano, some basil, dried basil. We'll be using other basil, fresh basil of course, on the pizza. Some fennel seeds, whole fennel seeds. Some wine. Oh, I guess not. Someone had to use it there. Little sugar, about a teaspoon, tablespoon, somewhere in between the two maybe. A couple bay leaves. Make sure it doesn't get too hot on you. And then about a teaspoon of salt. We recommend pink salt. It is the official salt of Cook Like a Bastard, Cook Like a Bastard Studios. Pink salt is. So exactly, you don't want it too salty. That's one thing. Even the pink salt could be too much. And then about the same amount of pepper, black pepper, which is the pepper. Well, it's not the official pepper. We don't have an official pepper yet. Can you imagine someday we'll get that sponsorship too, right here in Cook Like a Bastard. We'll have an official pepper. So we are going to mix these cats together here. There aren't really any cats in here, not away, because the cats, they get put upstairs during the whole cooking process, so they're not in here. But when I said cats, I was actually referring to the ingredients. You know, after you put in all the ingredients, then put in about 2 tablespoons or so of some grated Parmesan. So turn this down to a low heat and let it simmer, you know, for about an hour. And I bet you you're going to have the best pizza sauce you've ever tasted.
And cook like a bastard today.
If you think what the essence of the Cook Like a Bastard kitchen is, it's really trying to have fun, putting a lot of things together and really having a good time in the kitchen. And one thing we found is really fun is making cheese. Now today we're going to be making some mozzarella cheese. And you may think, oh my God, that must be complicated. It's like Italian or something like that. Well, it really isn't that tough. You're going to find it's only going to take 20 minutes and you don't even have to go outside to milk your buffalo. No, what we're using today, we're just starting with a gallon of whole milk. It's pretty simple. And I'm going to pour this into my stock pot right here. Now if you have buffalo outside, don't hesitate. I encourage you, milk these people. They like to be milked. At least most of the buffaloes I know do. So I poured my gallon of milk in here. And I'm also going to prepare the other elements that are required for it, is citric acid. Now, citric acid is really like a concentrated lime or lemon powder made for this. It's a little stronger than that. And I'm just going to mix that up. And I'm going to pour it into my gallon of whole milk. Simple as that, and I'm going to heat the milk up till about 90 degrees. So my burner's on, and we're letting the milk go up. And while you're doing that, it's time to prepare your rennet. Now, rennet is an enzyme. This is vegetable rennet, and vegetable rennet tends to come from thistles, which sounds a lot nicer than coming from the lining of some kind of mammal. So anyhow, this is what your little bottle of vegetable rennet looks like. And I went into a quarter cup of water. That's where the quarter cup came in. And then when your milk gets up to 90 degrees, you turn off the heat and then add your rennet solution. Pretty simple. Now here comes the complicated task though. Put it in your spoon and stir it and count to 30. 1, 2, 3, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, now after you've done 30, what you're going to do here, you're going to cover this up for about 5 minutes. Don't touch it, let it settle. So we've let these sit for about 5 minutes, and this should thicken up and be a little bit, maybe like tofu a little bit. And we're going to cut this into a nice grid. Oh yes, it's working very well here. And then you're just going to cut this across. Make sure your knife goes, I'm just using a spatula, but goes all the way to the bottom of the pan here. And again, you're making a grid, a big tic-tac-toe board maybe. And again, this is probably the consistency of some soft tofu. And what we're going to be doing from here is that we're going to turn on the heat again to kind of a medium heat. If you're on a big burner, it might be a lower heat. And we're going to stir this for 5 minutes. So there you go. You can watch me stir, or you can think about when you're going to make some mozzarella. Didn't think you could do this, huh? It's already looking like cheese. Actually, right now you have curds and whey. Who knew? Who knew when you heard that nursery rhyme? Not me. So then you heat this up to about 105 degrees, and then you take it off the heat. So I'm turning that down. And now I'm going to stir it for 5 minutes. So I'm setting my timer here. And another 5 minutes going to go by. I'm going to be doing some stirring. And you're going to watch while you're stirring. It's going to get a little yellower while the curds and whey separate even more. So be gentle while you stir it, but keep it moving for the next 5 minutes or so. Okay, we got about 40 seconds left of stirring here, but let's review what we've done to get to this point. We have used a 1/4 teaspoon of vegetable rennet, a teaspoon and a half about citric acid, a gallon of whole milk, and we've poured this together. We've done a lot of stirring. More than anything, we've been stirring, but we're only about 11 minutes into this whole project. That's the amazing thing about the mozzarella stuff. I'm going to shut this off now so it doesn't chirp. And then you have this nice separation here. So what you're going to do, I want you to take a microwave safe bowl because we're going to actually put this in the microwave. You guys got a microwave? Thought you might. So we're going to take these cats out of here, let the whey drain, and put your curds in here. Look at that. Remarkable. If you think that's remarkable, you should go to cooklikeabastard.com sometime. You'll say that, holy cow, it is remarkable. And then you find more curds, grab them. Then you might want to take your final step, take a little more fine of a strainer to get more of the stuff in. When I say stuff, I mean curds. So we're just going to put this in the microwave for a minute. Okay, so you've taken out of your microwave here. You notice you got a little more whey produced, so let's dump that back into the whey back machine, as this may be. And then, this is kind of hot right now, so you're going to work this with your hands. And I'm just going to put it above here so you can see it a little better. But I am going to put on some rubber gloves here so I don't burn my hands because this is hot. And I'm going to work it. I don't want to overwork it, but I'm going to fold it in a few times. And it should be soft, a little cottage cheesy, maybe a little more coarse than that. And then just get to play with it and mix it up. Oh, it's squeezy goodness. Okay, so I'm going to work this a few times just to start the stretching. Now, one thing you're going to find while you're working the cheese, if you overwork it, it's probably not going to melt as well. And so kind of judge that while you are going through your process here. So I'm squeezing here. I've made a little more whey. And what I'm going to do now is drain the whey one more time. And I'm going to go back in my microwave for 30 more seconds, and the idea is to heat this up to 135 degrees. So I've gotten this out of the microwave. I'm measuring it. It is about 138 degrees or so. So I don't need to put it in anymore. But if it was not 135 degrees, you would want to put it in a second time for about 30 seconds. Now drain off the whey again. And now we're going to work it and start to shape it the way we're going to want it. So I'm going to put this down and pour a little salt over it now. And yeah, it's a tablespoon of salt or so. I'm going to work this into here. And then you just start mixing it up and playing with it, remembering that you work it up too much, then you've overworked it, and then it's not going to melt. It's going to be a little chewier, a little under. It may not have the consistency you want. So this may be where it becomes more of a work of art. This is really the type of project that I love doing on this show because it was one of those things you would think, well, could I really make mozzarella cheese? It must be pretty complicated. And once you get by the fact that you don't need to be milking buffaloes, I think you're going to enjoy it. And we've made this with whole milk before, even like lactate-free milk, and it's worked. So, you know, make it something that you want. The more fat, probably the better it is. So I think I've probably worked this enough. So I'm going to kind of shape it into probably two balls here. So I want to make it a little longer and longer so I can cut off more slices to put on the pizza. And then once you get the shape you want, you can lay that out. take the second one, work it some more. Oh, it's fun to work the cheese. And if you want to store it, now here's a real good trick for storing. Once you make it into your little ball that you want, I'm just taking just a little plastic container here and putting it in here. And I've let my whey cool a bit. And that is whey cool, isn't it? And I'm going to take the whey in here and just cover this up to preserve it. And it will keep in your refrigerator for about a week like this. So, you know, you don't need to eat it right away. But I got to tell you, again, this is one of the things we like to do. We like to make something that isn't that usual, but it's easy, simple, and fun. We made mozzarella right here on Cook Like a Bastard.
And cook like a bastard today.
So after a while, your dough is going to rise, and it's going to, you know, get double in size or so. And look at this. This is beautiful. So I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to punch it down a bit. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry. I don't really have any pent-up aggressions at all. And there I am. I'm just using them. So this is going to be for 2 pizzas. So I'm going to split this in 2. I'm just going to work with one right now. I'm going to play it, slap it around a bit. Start to shape it, decide how thick you want everything to be. Because this is where you start getting to play with it, having some fun. I roll them out a little bit. I'll just roll it out, use my French rolling pin here. Well, my wine's in the way, so let's get rid of that. There's more where that came from. We're using some of the Smoking Loon wine today. I don't know if product placement helps, but you know, whatever it takes to keep the show going. So you start to get down there, you might want to put, if depending on your countertop, maybe a little cornmeal on the, well, put it on this side, then when you flip it over, it'll be good. This will help more with nothing out with just the sticking of it. So once you feel you got your shape of your pizza, you're going to want to let that settle in for just a little bit. You know, 10, 15 minutes. It'll make for a better pizza. Trust me. But let's just finish this. Make sure we just got a little edge. And don't, whatever you do, don't make the pizza too round. I mean, if you want round pizzas, there's pizza shops for that. You make a pizza of this shape, no one is ever going to accuse you of going to a pizza shop. That's for sure. So yeah, you put this together, let it sit for a few minutes, and we're going to put the sauce on and top it.
And cook like a bastard today.
We're really getting right down to it right now. I recommend that you, at this stage, you actually put the pizza underneath your pizza peel while you top it. I find it's just easier. And have a little cornstarch in there makes it slide off a little bit better too. So first thing you want to do is take your sauce, which has been cooking for about an hour, and start in the middle and work your way out. Whoa, this sauce, boy, this is good smelling sauce. I'm guessing it's also good tasting sauce. Well, I actually know it is a good tasting sauce because I've tasted it. So anyhow, so you're going to take this. I think the only thing you could do wrong with this sauce, if you do it right, you could burn it. You could cook it at too high, let it simmer at too high of a heat and start burning it. Then it wouldn't taste good. If you burn the garlic early, it might not be good. But for the most part, there's just not that many bad things you can except serving the bay leaf. I guess I have to do the dishes. Darn crew, you're off the hook today. All right, so I put the sauce on it. And then I am going to take the cheese, the mozzarella that we just made, and slice this into thin slices. Wasn't it fun watching the mozzarella? And that was amazing how easy that was. Now I've heated my oven up to about 500 degrees, and we're going to cook this for not that long. It gets done pretty quick. So the tomatoes of our, so we're making a margherita pizza, which is simply the mozzarella basil and tomatoes. I'm using Roma tomatoes, and I've sliced them pretty thin, and I patted them off. Remember, when you're cooking pizza, moisture of your topping is really the enemy of a good pizza to a bad pizza. You don't want a little pool, so make sure that you dry them off with a paper towel so you get rid of all the excess moisture that you can. Alright, so I got my mozzarella pretty evenly distributed here. And throw some of these tomatoes on. So take a handful of your basil, and rip the leaves, not too big, not too small. Always the perfect size, because that's what it's about. It's about precision when you're in here in the Cook Like a Bastard studio. Nothing is too scientific or too much left to chance. It just happens. So get a good distribution of your basil. And this, again, it's a little time consuming. You have the dough has to rise, and the sauce needs to cook, and you got to go milk the buffalo. Remember, you didn't have to milk the buffalo. You could just buy regular cow milk from the store. Or milk the buffalo, because if I know buffaloes, I know they love to be milked. So, yeah, just put the basil here, and we're going to pop it into the oven. Put it in the oven. I got my pizza stone here, and it's on 500 degrees. And it slides right off just like that. Easy as pie. Pizza pie here and Cook Like a Bastard. Okay, so we can cook pizza inside or we can cook pizza outside. We're going to cook this one outside. We have a little Commando Acorn Jr here, and it is a great little thing. It gets up to heat of up to like 700 degrees, so you can cook your pizza fairly quickly. And the one thing about it being junior is I got a 14-inch pizza stone on there, so I can't go any bigger than that. And you would think that I would measure at least once, if not twice, before I put it on there, but not me, not here in the Bastard Kitchen. We're going to estimate 14 inches and hope when we get out there, it's no more than such. Rolling it out till I see I got the right shape. Okay, pull out my pizza peel. Put some cornmeal on there. Plenty of it, so we'll slide off. And let's try this just for, so this is what people do. Somehow that makes it rounder. I guess it's like gravity. That's not that bad. So anyhow, we're going to put it here. Make sure we're nice and loose. We're just stretching this thing out. Feeling good about the size. Putting little dimples in it. Little flavor dimples, I call them, as the sauce has places to live. It's kind of fun. Play a song. Now YouTube is going to not play it because I'm some kind of copyright infringement. I am swirling completely out of control here, aren't I? All right, I'm going to grab my sauce. I'm going to grab my label or ladle, as the case may be. I'm going to go for ladle. Remember, we go in the middle. Okay, then we're going to cut up some of our homemade mozzarella on here. Tasty, 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 and fun. Fun and tasty. What a great combination. So we're going to cut these up, not too thick. Yeah, I'm going to say it, not too thin. Because it's your judgment, your good judgment here that makes your cooking so good. That's what it's about. It's about taking risks with what you're doing and also saying, yeah, it's probably going to work. Or I can go elsewhere for pizza tonight. So I got my little package of tomatoes here wrapped up in paper towels because I want these guys to be dry, because I know wet tomatoes make bad pizza, make little seeds of displeasure in the land of tomatoes. So randomly put these in the right place. That's your challenge, to put them in enough places that they look random, but that everyone actually gets a piece of tomato, they'll get a piece of basil, they'll get a great piece of the mozzarella. Just evenly throw these cats out here. Then we break up some basil. So this is great, it's topped up. Next time I see you, we're going to be outside at the grill. Well, here we are. We got this little Acorn King O griller here by Char Griller. It's a junior, about 500 degrees. And it's pretty simple. I'm just going to put this right on my pizza stone that I've heated up. Now I'm using lump charcoal underneath here to make sure I don't catch it in the corner there. This is warm, but this is how simple is this. We're coming back in about 8 minutes and we're going to have some pizza that's cooked here on Cook Like a Bastard. Well, we've let this sit here for about 10 minutes. It was at 500 degrees. It kind of lost a little temperature when we opened it up. We'll see what we got. We got ourselves a puffy pizza. Look at that. Well, that's interesting. I can smell the smoke, which is going to be great on it. What's done. And let's see if we can get this off. Actually, that's going to be the other challenge, isn't it? Look at that. Actually works with the new pizza peel. This is quite a pizza. This person's going to have a lot of dough. This person's going to have the same amount of dough. It just didn't quite rise. Hey, let's put these things together and wrap up the show, huh? Come on in. What a fantastic day it was in the Bastard Kitchen today. We've made 2 Margherita pizzas, really different style of cooking. We made our own mozzarella, which was easy. It took 20 minutes to make the mozzarella, no time at all. Came and walked to the store in that time. I made our own dough, cooked one inside, one outside. We got the smoky goodness of the lump charcoal in here and the puffiness that outdoors loves to bring to everybody. And indoors, the consistency, the flavor, the well done tomatoes. This is 2 beautiful pizzas, nice wine, and a nice day here at Cook Like a Bastard.
He cooks like a bastard.